Hello book lovers, welcome to Uncommon Reader. I'm Daniela, and finally today I'm going to start my summer reads wrap up. Well, some of the reads I've already spoke about in dedicated videos, but as you know, I am Italian and I often read in Italian and sometimes books that have not been translated yet in English or will ever be translated in English. So I will combine a few books that I've read in Italian for the past 2 or 3 months that are available in English. So since I have 5 books to talk about today, I'm going to rely on my notes and read from it, because otherwise improvising might take forever and I don't want you stuck here forever. Let's start with my beloved Emmanuel Carrère. This is I baffi, in Italian, the mustaches. And this is, get ready, a psychological short novel / horror, I would say, that begins with a very unusual premise. A man shaves off his mustaches and his wife and other people around him don't notice the difference. So when he inquires about why people haven't noticed his change in his face, they say, "Oh, but what are you talking about? You never had mustaches." And of course he's baffled. So what starts as a strange, funny prank quickly turns into a disturbing misunderstanding, which starts to play tricks on our protagonist's mind. So you clearly figured out that the story is not about the mustaches, right? So Carrère, this genius writer, shows with this book how fragile our sense of reality can be and how much we rely on other people to confirm what we believe is true. As the main character becomes more anxious, paranoid, and confused, of course, who wouldn't be, we see how easily our sense of self can fall apart when things like a partner's recognition or shared memories disappear. Carrère captures the fear of being made to question your reality, not just by others, but even by your own mind. It's very disturbing. It's a slow, creeping loss of certainty. In the end, The Mustache is a powerful example of psychological thriller, and if you like the genre, you'll appreciate one gory scene in the book. As for me, horror is not my thing, but the thought-provoking and pounding rhythm of Carrère's writing always gets me hooked. Next book, The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. So this is a slow-burning, emotional, rich mystery set in the dense forest of the Adirondacks. The novel begins in 1975 with the disappearance of a 13-year-old Barbara Van Laar from her family summer camp. They own it. But this isn't the first tragedy. Her older brother also vanished from the same area years earlier. What follows is not just an investigation, but an unraveling of decades of family secrets and personal trauma. What makes this book stand out, it's definitely the atmosphere. The woods aren't just a setting, they're almost like a character full of silence and secrets. This creates a strong feeling of unease on the reader, but also captures your attention. It also mirrors the emotional isolation and hidden tension within the Van Laar family. I personally love the structure of the book. It makes a very entertaining read because Moore shifts between multiple characters and time periods from the 1950s to the 1970s. This back and forth storytelling slowly reveals key pieces of the mystery and also deepening our understanding of the people involved and somehow giving us the impression that anyone could be involved in the past and the present disappearance. And this isn't a fast-paced thriller. It's more thoughtful, layered, and character-driven. I think actually the mystery, though, it's very satisfying, and also we have a very shocking twist at the end. Next book, I don't have a copy anymore. I read this with my pals at my local library, our book club, and we read How to Be Good by Nick Hornby. So this is a very funny and thoughtful novel, as it is the style of Hornby. And it's been a while since I've read some of his books. I used to read him towards the 19s, so it was a great comeback. The story evolves around a married couple, a woman named Katie, who is a doctor, a mother, and someone who tries to always do the right thing. But she has some flaws, of course. But her life becomes very confusing when her angry, bitter husband suddenly becomes kind and generous, almost like a new person, after meeting a spiritual healer. This change might sound good, right? But actually it makes things harder for the couple who were already in trouble. Katie now feels even more lost. She starts to question everything, what it means to be a good person, how to live a meaningful life, and whether she is been fooling herself all along. So to me, the book sometimes exaggerated reality and the generosity of this husband suddenly being way too out there helping the community and trying to put people off the streets and put them in people's houses. So it was a bit like extreme, but it was funny. Hornby uses humor to explore big questions like how hard it is to be really kind and helpful and selfless in the real world, especially when you're busy, you're tired, you have kids to raise, and you're not unsure of your own feelings, especially since this couple had trouble. And, also our egocentrism as well, and how much can we renounce to give to others. It would also make you explore not just the materialism part of giving away things, but also time, right? Attention. But this book really doesn't give you answer. It's just very thought-provoking for sure. The next book is The Girl with the Louding Voice by Daré. And this was also a read I did with my book club at the library. And this is a very powerful and moving novel about a young Nigerian girl named Aduni who dreams of getting an education and becoming a teacher in her small village in Nigeria. Unfortunately, at just 14 years old, though, Aduni is forced into marriage by her father after her mother dies. So life becomes even harder as she faces poverty, abuse, and injustice. But what makes the story special is Aduni herself. So she's smart, she's strong, she's hopeful, even when things seem impossible. She knows that education is the key to changing her life, and she never gives up on her dream. The book is told in Aduni's voice, using a unique and imperfect broken English that shows how she is still learning, and this makes her story feel very real and personal. The novel talks about serious issues, child marriage, domestic work, inequality, but it's also full of heart. It shows how one girl's determinations and courage can actually create change, even in the face of great obstacles, which makes this book an inspiring story about fighting for your future and the power of education above all, hope and never giving up. So Aduni's voice is one you won't forget, and personally, I will follow up on her story in the sequel that's being released about a year ago called And So I Roar. What a title. Let's finish up with probably the least successful read of the summer. Alas, that was Ernest Hemingway, A Farewell to Arms. So it's the story of an American soldier, Frederick Henry, who is at war in Italy, in my region to start with in the book, and his relationship with an English nurse. Her name is Catherine Berkeley, and this is set during World War I. So I know this is one of Hemingway's most loved novels, although I feel and learn that the impact of the story depends a lot on the reader's connections to Hemingway's writing style. So, being my first encounter with him, I learned that he's known for his simple, stripped down language. But in this book, to me, I mean, you can do it very nicely to be concise and minimalist if you use, effective words. But I felt that the language in this book was really too flat and emotionless. I was kind of disturbed. I'm like, is this Hemingway? Really? This is what Hemingway is about? I mean, and it was along in the dialogues and in the prose, very, very dry. And this happened especially at the beginning and in the middle of the book. Towards the end, things started to change a little bit. So overall, though, the characters seemed very distant, and the relationship between Frederick and Catherine really lacks depth early on, and I wouldn't say there was a lot of depth later on either. So it was really hard to care for these two characters. So the emotional weight finally shows towards the end when some tragedy hits. But I guess that at the time, the reader may as well not be invested anymore, as I wasn't at all. So I really didn't feel like I was moved by what happens to them. And I was so surprised because this novel touches topics that provide quite an emotional reaction, like war, loss, and love. So I guess that Hemingway minimalism made me feel disconnected rather than deeply affected reading this book. So this book won't hold the requirements to remain in my shelves, and this will go on my pile that I use when I go to book crossing. So goodbye. And I still have For Whom the Bell Tolls from him to read, but at this point I'm really not sure when that's going to happen. And this concludes my first summer reads wrap up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let's discuss in the comments what you think about these reads. Have you read them? Are you curious to read them? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. And I thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I'll be on vacation for a week with my sister in beautiful Slovenia for about a week. So expect a travel and reading vlog very soon here on the channel. In the meantime, happy reading. Ciao.